Singapore is planning new attractions and experiences for tourists, including a chocolate factory. The Straits Times sports groups involved in illegal horse betting at HDB void decks and coffee shops. Going for SEA Games glory, Singapore's under-23 football team gets the best draw possible. It's 5:30 p.m. here in Singapore. You're watching The Big Story with me, Hairianto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss a single episode. With the pandemic hopefully under control and borders reopening, Singapore is setting aside close to $500 million to kickstart our tourism sector and bring back travellers. For a start, new initiatives will be launched, including a wellness festival and an action sports facility in Orchard for skating, surfing, skiing and snowboarding. Minister of State for Trade and Industry Alvin Tan says Singapore recognises it will take a few years for international travel to fully resume. But in the immediate term, the country needs to recapture pent-up travel demand. With more is consumer correspondent Anjali Raguraman. Anjali, welcome back to the show. Not only is Singapore still a top destination for business tourism, STB's new plans include a focus on sustainability and wellness. Why is STB choosing to provide such a wide spectrum of offerings?
Well, Jan, a large part of this year's push for tourism recovery is about differentiating ourselves from our competitors, and I think also with focusing on these particular areas that you've mentioned, sustainability, wellness, and business tourism, is quite strategic. Because in the sense that Singapore can set itself apart this way. And for the sustainability front, we're talking about going beyond, using sustainable materials to build your attractions or using more efficient cooling systems. They're pushing for something more visible. So, for instance, they've announced that there's a electric go-kart circuit that's going to be open on Sentosa called Hyperdrive. It's an indoor three-level racetrack with gaming elements, and it's got light and sound effects. It's set to open in 2023. And in this sense, it's visible sustainability because the go-karts are electric. And on the business tourism front, what has happened is that, MICE tourism has always been a big component of Singapore's tourism push, but they're doubling down on that as well because MICE travelers tend to spend 1.8 times more than your average tourist, or at least that's what the STB Chief Executive Officer Keith Tan shared with us earlier today. But it's also twofold, like high quality MICE events. They bring in companies from around the world and they put Singapore front and center at this crossroads of great talent and companies coming into Singapore, and it creates a marketplace that wouldn't exist otherwise. So it doesn't only serve tourism outcomes in terms of tourism spend and visitor arrivals, but there's also larger economic outcomes when you focus on business tourism as well.
And Anjali, wellness seems like a new direction Singapore tourism is heading towards. Bali is one of my favorite places to unwind, and I think a lot of people can agree to that as well. But how can Singapore compare to our neighbours that have established themselves as wellness destinations?
Yeah, I think we can't really compete on that front with venues, destinations like Bali and Phuket. But so what we're going for is urban wellness instead. And so that means that despite being a busy city, we have easy access to wellness offerings. And that's going to be kicked off with a nationwide 10-day wellness festival in Singapore in June. So that's going to involve things like a multi-sensory pop-up at Gardens by the Bay and wellness masterclasses at Gardens by the Bay. And also we have a Live Well festival at Sentosa coming up, where there's going to be wellness themed staycations and stuff. So I think our definition of wellness is slightly different, but it's couched slightly differently because of our urban setting. But I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. whether it works for our market.
And pre-pandemic, Anjali, what types of tourists did Singapore attract, and do they factor into STB's future plans?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, after China, our largest market is Indonesia, and we have this thing called the Singapore Reimagine campaign. You might have seen the videos on socials on the Visit Singapore page and stuff with rapper Young Raja and Paralympics gold medalist Yipin Siu. There's already been traction in key markets that we have, like Australia, Indonesia, and India. And just last week, there was, a couple of days ago for that matter, there was a huge gin festival in Delhi that 5,000 people attended, and there was a Singapore experience zone, and we had a Singaporean bartender there. So, our markets, our key markets are very much top of mind, but I think there'll be more to come, and this is just the beginning.
Anjali, thank you so much for the sharing. Anjali Raguraman there, consumer correspondent for the Straits Times. In other news, a certificate of entitlement prices closed mostly higher today in the open category, which can be used for any types of vehicles, but typically ends up being used for larger cars. Premiums went up to $99,999. Senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan has more on the latest bidding exercise.
I think, you look at the open cat, it's just $1 away from 100,000. I think the bidders were probably, doing it on purpose, because $100,000 will, keep a lot of buyers away. It's kind of a frightening level, a psychological barrier, if you will. But that's not to say that it's going to be there forever. There are sources who say that, there are indications that, prices will rise beyond $100,000 over the next few bids. What is less known is the impact. Now, high COEs means high car prices. High car prices tend to be, counterproductive to our aim of becoming a car-light nation. Many studies have shown that the higher the car price is, the more people are likely to drive that car. It's something called sunk cost fallacy. And a lot of academics have proven using data in the past to show that the higher the car price is, the more likely people are to use it, and less likely they are to keep it at home and use alternatives. The other impact is right now we are pouring a lot of money into converting or trying to persuade people from switch to electric cars. Now, up to $45,000 subsidies per car is being doled out. Now, $45,000 may seem quite a lot, but when COE is $100,000, the effect or the attractiveness of that subsidy is diluted. So this is also going to be counterproductive to our aim, of becoming a carbon light nation, to try and persuade people to switch from internal combustion engines to cleaner and emission lighter electric cars.
Businesses that offer flexible work arrangements ranked well among Singapore's top companies to work for, at least according to a list by LinkedIn out today. In the top 15 best workplaces in Singapore, clinching the top 3 spots are consumer goods giant Unilever, followed by Standard Chartered Bank and insurer Prudential. OCBC Bank slipped to 4th place from 1st last year, while DBS Bank leapfrogged from 15th to 5th place. The list is in its 2nd year and compiled based on LinkedIn data across 7 pillars, each representing an element of career progression, including ability to advance, skills growth, and company stability. And Singapore's football team have the best draw they could have hoped for in the May SEA Games. Drawn in Group B, they avoid Vietnam and Indonesia, but have to face 16-time champions Thailand. The top two teams from each group will progress to the semi-final. Singapore's best performance were three runner-up finishes in 1983, 1985 and 1989. And their campaign this year kicks off against Laos on May 7th. Illegal horse betting appears to be taking place in public on a regular basis. Over the last 3 weeks, the Straits Times has observed large groups of mostly men gathering at HDB void decks and coffee shops. Illegal bookies and punters were spotted at 5 locations in Jurong East, French Road, Holland Drive, Bedok North and Woodlands, and they were usually there for hours. Joining me is senior correspondent Zaihan Mohamed Yusof. Zaihan, help us understand why illegal horse betting is so popular among these groups of men. Why don't they just do it legally with Singapore pools?
Hi, Yan. Anyway, illegal horse betting is nothing new, but because of this unique set of circumstances in the last 1.5 years, these punters who are not able to go to the turf club because it's not open to the public just yet. So the bookies, I think they're raking in a lot of money from continuing to nurture their activities where they open illegal betting in housing estates. Not only housing estates, staircases, parking lots, walkways, coffee shops, they're almost everywhere, and it's very blatant these days. As for the punters who bet with bookies, what we get is the sense that it is convenient to place their bets with illegal bookies because it's just a matter of saying which races you're interested in and how many tickets you want to put in that race, and you don't have to move from your coffee shop to the of-course betting centers. You know, it's quite a distance, and some of these guys, they are basically senior citizens or middle-aged men. So that's where I think the bookies are trying to make their illegal business more convenient to the punters.
What have the police said about these punters and illegal bookies? What is the punishment by law if one is caught?
The police have been clear about their stance towards illegal gambling and illegal horse betting. Basically, for horse betting, for gamblers, illegal gamblers, you have a summons, a penalty of about $5,000, maximum penalty of $5,000 if you bet with bookies, and there is a maximum jail term of about 6 months. Now, if you're a bookie, the penalties escalate. There is a fine of about between $20,000 and $200,000. And also your jail term is up to a maximum of 5 years.
And Zaihan, even with these penalties, apparently they don't seem to deter these groups who congregate at the same spots, making them easy to find and arrest. Why are the groups still so present?
Well, I think for the last 1.5 years, there hasn't been much opportunities for punters to go to the turf club to watch and experience races, right? So again, this is where the illegal bookies benefit. You know, they conduct informal channels to bet. They're easy, very convenient. It's just a matter of shouting or telling the bookie that, hey, I want to put X amount of tickets on race number 5 or horse number 4. And you don't really have to go to the legal, of course, betting centers to queue up and place bets. So in a way, these punters who are mostly senior men, they feel that it is very convenient and it suits their lifestyle. But of course, the payout is smaller with illegal bookies. No doubt that the tickets are cheaper, but I think the greatest fear for them would be if they get caught, because you know, in our 3 weeks looking at this story, it was easy to identify who were the bookies, and to come close enough to speak to some of the punters and to understand why they're risking their livelihood and also the fear of being caught by the police. They're willing to risk it. I mean, I think they feel that it is safe, but it is very blatant. And there are other residents who feel that, look, this public gaming, public gambling is not good for, you know, youngsters in the estates who make their ways to the shops, to the coffee shops to eat and so on. So I think there must be a balance. If you want to gamble, go ahead, but do it legally and not let it be exposed to people who are vulnerable, you know.
Senior correspondent Zaihan Mohamed Yusof there. You can read Zaihan's story at straitstimes.com. Of course, visit the website for other news as well and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. See you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.